Hang on. The New Orleans Saints clinch a playoff berth.
The New Orleans Saints have clinched a playoff spot for the 4th straight season. And one of the unheralded keys to the team's success has been defensive backs coach Aaron Glenn.
Today, The Athletic's Dan Pompei joins us to discuss Glenn's path to coaching success and why his legendary mentor, Bill Parcells, sees something special in him.
The passion that made Parcells a great coach, a 2-time Super Bowl winner, and a Hall of Fame coach who turned around multiple franchises, also is evident in Aaron Glenn. And, that's something that makes Parcells very happy to see one of his disciples have that same type of drive that he had.
From Wondery and The Athletic, I'm Anders Kelto.
And I'm Kavitha Davidson. It's Wednesday, December 9th, and this is The Lead.
It felt like something great was happening.
There was just something about the emotion and that moment.
The failures of the past don't matter because we've got this guy now.
I have never seen anything like that.
That's not good news.
This isn't a story where you interview the athlete and go home. It stays with you.
So, Dan, first of all, what gave you the idea to do a story about the Saints defensive backs coach?
I'm doing this series on African-American coaching candidates, and I called up Bill Parcells to ask him about another coach who had worked for him, Todd Bowles, the defensive coordinator of the Bucs. And we got done talking about Todd, and he said to me, have you thought about doing a story on Aaron Glenn in this series? And I said, well, no, I have not. I didn't know that he was considered like that as a head coach candidate because he never had been a coordinator. He's only been a position coach. And Parcells said, well, I think you should think about doing a story on him because I think he's going to be a head coach in this league.
Aaron really likes football, and not every coach likes it, not everybody. And he's looking to the future as well.
So I ended up pursuing Glenn over a number of weeks and finally ended up getting to talk to him.
Well, so tell us a little about this guy who Bill Parcells thinks so highly of. What is Aaron Glenn's background?
Well, he was a very good football player at Texas A&M, an All-American.
To the left, Gardner throws right.
Intercepted.
It is intercepted by the Aggies, and here comes the
He
return.
may go.
At the 30, at the 40, at the 30, still going. At the 10, it's going to be Aaron Glenn into the end zone, touchdown. Aaron Glenn on an
came to the NFL as the 12th pick in the draft. A lot of people thought he was going to go higher than that, but he fell to 12th. He's a shorter cornerback. At the combine, he measured a little over 5'8", although he will say he's 5'10". He's kind of like me that way. But he came into the league and started his first game and really immediately was a good player.
Denver's pass is intercepted by Aaron Glenn. That's an easy touchdown. That's all in Urban Fryer.
Continued to be a good player for a long time in the NFL, mostly with the Jets, and then closed out his career with the New Orleans Saints.
Well, when he was with the Jets, he met someone who would go on to play a very big role in the rest of his career, Bill Parcells. But as you wrote, Dan, their relationship didn't exactly get off to the most promising start. Can you tell us about the first time that Aaron Glenn spoke with Bill Parcells?
Well, Bill Parcells was Aaron Glenn's third coach with the Jets. And Parcells came in and he wanted to clean house and change things around and shake up the team and bring in some of his type of guys. And when he looked at Aaron Glenn being a short cornerback, he didn't look like one of Parcells' guys. He also heard that Parcells was thinking about trading him. So he kept hearing this. He kept kind of stewing about it. Eventually he said, I'm going to go up to his office.
So I go up there, I just, man, what is it? You try to trade me now, let me know. All right, so I can make plans.
So Glenn and Parcells kind of sat there, stared at each other for a little bit. Parcells shut the door, said, sit down.
He said, listen to me. Everybody has a price. He said, my own wife, you could trade it. So at that point, I'm like, I understand, coach. Okay, I'm good.
Aaron Glenn just kind of said, oh, I see now. And Parcells told him, look, if you play the way you're capable of playing, you have nothing to worry about.
These were two guys that were not exactly from similar backgrounds, but it seems like they did kind of feed off of each other in a really positive way.
Parcells is a guy from Jersey. He's kind of a big city guy, big, brash, bold guy. Glenn grew up on a farm, basically. His father was a wood contractor, and, he grew up with pigs and chickens and farm animals. And he's more of a soft-spoken guy than Parcells. I mean, a very different personality. But really, there's something about them that's very similar, and that's their passion for football and their commitment to be the best they can be. Parcells, of course, is one of the great motivators of all time, and he's very good at kind of tweaking a person and finding something that will enable him to get more out of the person, to stretch the player. And he did that with Glenn. He used to go up to him at the start of the week and say, well, you're playing against, say, Joey Galloway this week. Joey Galloway is really good. You're going to need some help. I'm going to have to give you some safety help. So Glenn would say, no, I can cover him one-on-one. I can do it. I don't need safety help. And Parcells would say, well, you're going to have to show me in practice.
What he was doing was forcing me to practice better. He was forcing me to mentally get my mind to a point to where I was going to shut this guy down.
Glenn was always a really dedicated, hard worker, kind of guy who got everything out of his abilities. But even his wife, Devaney, told me that, when Parcells came to the Jets, Glenn even found a way to dig deeper and get more out of his abilities.
He became even more driven because that's the type of coach Parcells is. He's going to bring out either the good or the bad.
And Dan, you wrote about a pretty unusual motivational tactic that Bill Parcells used with Aaron Glenn that involved a dollhouse. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, what he did was he took a big dollhouse and he put it in Glenn's locker. And every week before a game, he would write down the wide receiver that Glenn was assigned to cover. If the receiver gets more than X catches and X yards, I'm going to put a little doll representing the wide receiver in your dollhouse. And he's going to live there all year long. And the thought of that infuriated Glenn.
I'll tell you what, man, I look forward to seeing him cross those names out every week. I mean, that was like the highlight of my day.
Well, after 15 seasons as a player, Aaron Glenn eventually retired, and he seemed to be set up for a pretty comfortable life. So how did he end up getting into coaching?
When he was done playing, he thought he was going to just kind of be a dad, take care of his 3 children, drive them to school and to their sports activities and their appointments, and golf every day. But as time passed, he found himself watching more and more football. And I don't think he really realized it, but he really missed the game. And one day he was sitting there on his couch watching football on TV, and his wife walked in the room and she said, why don't you just go coach?
I know that that's his lifelong dream is to be an NFL coach. So I was like, just do it. I'm going to support you as long as I know what your vision is.
So he said, you know what, you're right. And so the next thing he did was call Parcells. And he said, would you help me get a job in coaching? And Parcells said, no.
He said, I don't want you to coach. I want you to scout. I'm like, Coach, well, I don't want to scout. I want to be coach. He said, well, that's not how we're going to do this.
I thought that was a better vehicle opportunity-wise. And then you kind of learn a little bit about the philosophy on personnel, and that eventually helps you as a coach.
So Glenn listened to him, and he ended up going into scouting for 2 years with his old team, the New York Jets.
Well, after following orders and putting in his time as a scout, Aaron Glenn is now a defensive backs coach with the Saints and working under another Bill Parcells disciple, Sean Payton. Dan, what did Sean Payton tell you about Aaron Glenn as a coach?
He's really impressed with his intelligence, I think, and his understanding of the game and his study habits, his leadership habits.
Man, we're in the passion business, and each week you're getting the same Aaron Glenn. He's competitive, extremely competitive. And I think, look, those are all the traits you're looking for in a young, talented coach. And he's not young, obviously, but, man, he's got that it factor.
And really, I talked about how Glenn is similar to Parcells. Well, he's a little similar to Payton, too.
When you work for Bill or you work under Bill, you begin to pick up things that you're going to use later. You're still your own personality, and Bill's unique. But I would say that the attraction that Bill had would be the same attraction I have.
They're all sharing some of the same qualities. And I think that's one of the reasons why Payton and Glenn click.
These days between work and friends and family, our lives can feel like nonstop hustle with an expectation that we have to be on 24/7. Sometimes you just need a minute to turn off and hit reset, and that's when you reach for Coors Light. It's made to chill. Coors Light is cold lagered, cold filtered, and cold packaged. It is as crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Rockies, perfect for a moment to unwind. One of my favorite ways to relax right now is turning on a football game, and for me, that is the ideal time to crack one open. Don't miss the new packaging from Coors Light, which is already hitting shelves. The new design features clear skies that invite you to sit back, unwind, and drink it all in. And the iconic Coors Light mountains still turn blue when your beer is as cold as the Rockies. Coors Light is the one I choose when I need to unwind, so when you want to hit reset, reach for the beer that's made to chill. Get Coors Light in the new look delivered straight to your door at get.coorslight.com. Remember to celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. If you're like me, you start thinking about what to eat for dinner while you're sitting down having lunch. As much as I love food, there are times that getting into the kitchen and cooking something delicious just does not make it onto my to-do list. And that's why I love Postmates. With Postmates, you can get food delivered without leaving the house or even opening your front door. And with the current state of the world in mind, Postmates created no-contact deliveries. So now when I order from local restaurants, the food gets left on my doorstep and the app lets me know when it's been delivered. Just download Postmates on iOS or Android, find your favorites, and get anything you want delivered within the hour. For a limited time, Postmates is giving our listeners $5 off your first 5 orders for your first 7 days. To save $5 on your first 5 deliveries, download the app and use code THELEAD. That's code THELEAD for $5 off your first 5 orders when you download the Postmates app or sign up online. Anything you need, anytime you need it, Postmate it.
Everyone likes shopping online, but searching for coupon codes is kind of a bummer. So make saving online a breeze with Capital One Shopping. Capital One Shopping is a free tool that instantly searches for available coupon codes and automatically applies them at checkout. Just download Capital One Shopping to your computer and let it do the work for you. So easy, and you don't even need a Capital One card to use it. Capital One Shopping. It's kind of genius. What's in your wallet? Savings and available coupons vary.
So, Dan, what is Aaron Glenn's relationship with Bill Parcells like these days?
Well, they speak on the phone on a regular basis. They text on a regular basis. After games, Parcells often calls Glenn with feedback or questions. And then in the off season, Glenn visits Parcells every year at Parcells' home in Florida. And they will discuss all kinds of things for 3 or 4 days, everything that you could think about in football. Parcells is basically coaching Glenn to be a head coach. Glenn has, I think, a rare opportunity here to really understand things beyond that which is in his realm as a defensive backs coach.
Well, as you mentioned, these are two guys who are from pretty different worlds, but you wrote that Glenn and Parcells share the same gene when it comes to football. Can you explain what you meant by that?
Well, I think it's about the passion.
He's very passionate like Parcells, and he tries to bring out the best in his players.
The passion that made Parcells a great coach, a 2-time Super Bowl winner and a Hall of Fame coach who turned around multiple franchises, also is evident in Aaron Glenn. And Parcells saw it from the very beginning when Glenn marched up to his office. And he saw it throughout his playing career. And he sees it now in Glenn's commitment to coaching and to being the best he can be and his aspiration to be a head coach. And, that's something that makes Parcells very happy to see one of his disciples have that same type of drive that he had.
And lastly, Dan, Aaron Glenn has been in the NFL in some form or fashion for 24 years now. What do you think comes next for him in his coaching journey?
Well, it's possible he becomes a defensive coordinator, certainly. There is some talk that Dennis Allen, the Saints defensive coordinator, could be a head coaching candidate this year, in which case I would think that Glenn would be a strong candidate to replace him. Glenn could become a defensive coordinator elsewhere. It's also possible he will kind of jump that level of coordinator and just become a head coach. We have seen coaches do that without being a coordinator. Andy Reid never was a coordinator.